Welcome to Not Factory Approved. I originally started disassembling this distributor, trying to find out if it was related to a much improved overheating problem, but I still have it as far as I know. I haven't done a road test yet since the last flush, but not much came out on the last one, so I'm not expecting a big improvement. So I took this apart, and there's enough material in this one, I think, that in this process, that I'm going to make this a separate episode and just include the success or failure in the overheating video. I haven't driven the car since the second rad flush, but I had it idling here setting the timing, because that's one thing that can cause overheating, retard position that is. And what I found was the base ignition was a little bit advanced, so I just put it back to roughly a little bit close to where it's supposed to be. It's a couple degrees advanced, but I'm not worried about that because I suspect fuel is a little better than it used to be. So I can probably take that without any trouble. But what I did find was that when I rev it up, there's very little mechanical advance. There's some vacuum advance, but very little mechanical. And so at rev, that would make it retarded from what it should be. So that could be causing a problem. So I'm going to take the distributor out again. It's back there. And I'll check the weights. Make sure they're working okay. There is some advancement by moving the rotor, but it's not much. So I can see what the issue is here. I'll check the manual too, see how many degrees it's actually supposed to get. But it is getting warm. The rad was venting once I turned it off. I might have to go for a lower thermostat yet. I've got the lowest one in there that they recommend, but other people have been using colder ones, I have found, from the Cadillac LaSalle Club and from other people I've talked to. That might be the next step, but after the distributor. Stay tuned. And by the way, on the 6-volt system, to check the timing with the light that has electronics to boost it, there's the 6-volt battery down there, and it doesn't have enough oomph for a 12-volt timing light. So what I did was I have the spare battery from the trailer. Any 12-volt battery will do. And I just ran the light off that and then used the pickup on #1 cylinder. And it worked. Still moving ahead with the overheating problem. Troubleshooting a lack of advance now on the distributor. When I took the point plate off, the cap or the cam inside snapped back. So something is making it catch. So right now, even that though, is not a lot of advance. The spec is 24 degrees on the distributor at 4,000 RPM. So that would be 48 degrees crank. And I'm definitely not getting that. So at 2,000 RPM, I'm supposed to be getting 5.5 to 8.5 degrees, which is possible. That's correct, but given that I'm not getting the total 24 degrees, I don't think anyway, I'm going to measure that. But that does not look like 24 degrees to me. So, see what I can find. Not like me to get carried away. This was a distributor. I found that the peg, and this must have come out of something else, this distributor, that just happens to fit. I thought I got it out of an old Cadillac, but it did not have near the advance it was supposed to. And that oblong hole I have filed out because the pin of the plate, the cam, right there, runs in that slot, that hole. And so it's limited to how much it can rotate. So using this digital protractor level, see my bench is at 1.1 degrees. I've had this on the cam in the vise. So when I started, I was getting about 12, 13 degrees of advance on the distributor, which is very little. And now I'm getting 22, which is right in the range it should be. The distributor advance is supposed to be 21 to 22 degrees, or sorry, 21 to 24 degrees. Right there, if you can read it. So that's the chart, if that helps you at all. So at 1,000 RPM, it's crank RPM, that is, it's 0 to 1 degree advance. Then 1200 is up to 2.5, 1400 1 to 4 degrees, 1600 2.5 to 5.5, etc. And up through the scales. 4,000 RPM, which is max. You're crazy if you take it that high. This is a very long stroke engine. It's 21 to 24 degrees. So I'm in the range now. I will start putting it back together and see if the car does any better on overheating. Now to scratch my head as I put this together. So here's the plate, this oblong hole. So even if I'm wrong, that shouldn't cause a problem. I can always weld that and fill it in again. There's one thrust washer here. That's the thinnest one. There's a thicker one that goes on the bottom. They look the same. One's thicker than the other. Just a little bit. Put some oil on the shaft. There's oil in this cap underneath there. So I'm not sure what the story is there, because I have a 42 manual and a 46 manual, and they both indicate roughly the same amount of advance. So I can't explain why this one had 6 degrees of mechanical advance, and that was on the crank. Suppose, you know, maybe it went up to 10 degrees on the crank. That would be about it. So make sure it turns properly. You put it in with the thrust washer. Bit of a there's a dry spot, or it's got a slight bend. To look at that. Anyway, next steps. There's the pin that limits the advance. That's why I filed out that hole. Right here. There we go. So that's advanced that way. Let's see what I find. And this can go on 180 degrees out, but it has to fit in the engine a certain way. It's got to match the firing cylinder. So I'll just go check the car which direction this is looking at the moment, because I have not turned the engine. I put it to top dead center, but I don't know which cylinder it's on. It can be number 1 or check the firing order, what the other one is. So try and make sure I've got this right. But the small thrust washer goes down there against the brass bushing. I'll clean off this thrust washer. That goes on next. Oh, except now I dropped them. Clean them again. To be continued. Oh, try again. So this goes in the car with the vacuum advance, which is here, slightly past center line, side to side. That goes there. You can always add a little oil, even though it's going to get lots of oil when the engine starts. Then put this in, and the offset presently is towards the driver's side. So with the distributor sitting like that, that means that this will be back one more turn there. So I'll put that on and start putting things together. Turns good. I'm going to leave this pin sticking out a bit until I make sure I've got everything exactly right. So here's the, you can see the offset is more one way than the other. So that goes to the driver's side of the car for the present position of the engine. Put that there. A little bit of oil on the pins. Put too much oil in there, it's going to go on the points. Those on. So these are the weights. And they go on easy, really easy. Especially if you put them on backwards, then they don't go on at all. This is the pivot, right there, on the toothy end. Thought they looked funny. And put there's a rounded side that goes up, square side goes down. Oh. Now again some oil, because this has to rotate slightly. There we go. Pin is there. Go. I'll put a little silicone grease. There it is. Easy slide, clean flow. Smear that on the cam. Just a dab will do ya. Make sure that the springs are such that this returns to its zero position. Shouldn't be able to move it physically back. It should do that all by itself. Okay, that part's good. This tab here holds the vacuum advance, and I checked it. You can suck on it. Make sure it moves. And then plug it with your tongue, it should snap back. Like that. Then you get the taste of grease. So this has to go back in.
I got you some. I'm not sure what to do.
Now we have this ring go back in, which is the track for the ball bearings. It'll allow the plate to move, so when the cam moves in relation to the shaft, it advances this. So this piece here, you can see has a groove. There's a groove cut in the top of the distributor. That goes to the top, and then that goes through the hole. And this goes either side of it. And this came with that dent. I don't know if that's normal. I'm going to go for round. Might be part of the problem I had before too. And this goes in here, into that groove. Even it out. Easier said than done. So center it around that hole. Close. There. See that? Now this piece goes in, and lo and behold, it helps to hold that piece in. Use a rag and the vise is a good idea. Something like this. You want to put dents in it because then it might not slide in properly. So that part's all set to go. Now we're going to put the plate in. I bump that off. Oh, and it's not going to hold. Okay, it's going to come in afterwards. So that is for this connection. It's the insulator for it. This goes like that, right around in there somewhere. Now I think I'm going to put a little silicone grease on these just to hold their position. Okay, be like that. You can pick it up with that. One in position, two in position. Maybe three in position. There. Now, this goes this way. Now I have to get it down in there. There we go. Start again. It pushes down in. Beauty of a magnetic screwdriver. Sometimes it picks up stuff you don't want it to. Okay, that's two of them in place. And there's grooves here to make it easier. Those recesses are for the ball bearings, so you push them down in. Another one there. That's two in. And get the third one in. GM found an easier way to do it after this. Two in position. Third one is not. I'm going to work on that. In a job like this, there's always a sacrifice has to be made. So, as usual, I have given up a screw to someplace unknown. So, I'll have to get another one. Fortunately, it's Imperial and I've got a fair number of them. So, this is the plan. So the plate that holds the points in the condenser is moved by the vacuum advance, and I checked that, it works. The cam is advanced by the springs underneath. This wire must be grounded. It grounds out the plate to the case, otherwise you will get an intermittent spark. And the ball bearings are in, rotates. Have to put in that connector yet. Put that screw in, the one I've lost, and then put the clip on the other side. This with this. So I get a screw for that wire, put everything together, check the point gap, and then drive this in, put it in the car. And see how much it. So this is the power connection, goes to the coil. The points put the coil to ground so that you get a nice sharp spike, and the capacitor helps with that. You get some ringing, and both of those are working correctly, then you get a nice spark. So this line, got the capacitor, condenser, points, and then the line goes to the outside through the insulator to make sure that when this plate moves, nothing is pinching this. Can't short out anywhere. It's highly flexible wire, and they do wear out. This one's getting a bit shady now. You can see the insulation is breaking down. I'll have to get a kit for that probably. And then this one grounds the plate to the chassis of the distributor, just to make sure you get a good ground on this. Because if you count on this point, that's a bad ground, and it will cut out, and then the car will miss. Here it is. I remember that the rotor was in that position there, in line with this edge, and that the narrow side of this is towards the driver's side, and this points towards the driver's side as well. So all should be well. This only goes on one direction, and if you have it like that, it sits this way. If the bolt's on the other side, it hits the lubrication cap. So, ready to go back in, see if it fires. So far that's what it's doing. A 4-kilometer trip on about a 20 degree or 70 Fahrenheit day. Circulation down and see if it heats up. In a few minutes, I'll let you know. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, or even notify, or any of the above, or all of the above. Thank you.